Hello and welcome. Today's lesson is going to be on graphing lines. In order to graph lines, we need to make sure that the equation has the y alone, which is called the slope-intercept form. So basically, the slope-intercept form is that the number in front of the x is your slope, and the number without x is your y-intercept. So let's graph some equations. Here I have three equations, and the nice thing is that all of them have the y alone. So immediately I can identify the slope and the y-intercept. The slope for the first equation is 3. And because the number is a whole number, I want to make sure that the slope is a fraction. So to do that, I'm going to turn into a fraction by putting a 1 underneath. And then the b, or the y-intercept, is -1. So identify the slope and the y-intercept. Now I'm ready to start the graph. You always start the graph with letter B, which is the y-intercept. So put your pencil at the origin, and then we're going to count down 1 because the y-intercept is -1, and we're going to make our first point, which is the y-intercept. Now that we've done that, we go and look at the slope, and we notice the slope is positive, so that means it's going to go up. And on the bottom is also positive, so that means it goes to the right. So let's go to the graph, and putting our pencil here at the y-intercept, we're going to count 1, 2, 3 over 1, and then we make our first point. Then we continue the pattern. 1, 2, 3 up over 1. And then 1, 2, 3 over 1. But it so happened that it's outside the graph, so we stop there. That means we finish the right side. Once you finish the right side, you want to return to the starting point, or the y-intercept. And now instead of going up, we're going to go down. And instead of going to the right, we're going to go left. So we're going to do the very opposite that the slope is telling us to do. So we're going to go down 3 and then over 1. Down 3 and over 1. And if you've done this correctly, you should see a straight line with the points that you drew. Now that we have those points, maybe using like your ID, you can connect those points and draw your line. So I'm going to put my point right there, and I'm going to connect, and that's my line right there. All right, let's go on to the next problem. The next problem, again, I have the y alone. When the y is alone, the number in front of the x is the slope. So in this case, the slope is -2. We're going to make sure it's a fraction, so we put a 1 underneath. And the number without x is number 4. Now that we have these two pieces of information, we go to the graph and we find the y-intercept. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And once there, we look at the slope. The slope is negative, so that means I'm going to go down. And the number on the bottom is positive, so it's going to go to the right. So down 2 over 1. 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 And I cannot go down anymore. So that means I completed the right side. Once you completed the right side, return to the point where you started. And now let's do the opposite of what we were doing. Instead of going down 2, we're going to go up 2. And then instead of going to the right, we're going to go to the left. And that's the only point we can make on the left side. So that means we completed making the points. So now we're going to draw the line. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to draw my line that connects all the points. Look at that. Beautiful. Now let's go on to the next problem. The next problem, the y is alone as well. And we identified the slope to be -2/3. So this one, I don't need to add a 1 underneath because the slope is already a fraction. Okay? And my b is a -2. So you always start the graph with the y-intercept. So let's go here at the origin, and we'll go down 1, 2. And that's our first point right there. And then looking at the slope, I know that I'm going to go down 2 and to the right 3. So starting right there, we're going to go 1, 2, to the right 3. 1, 2, to the right 3. And then once we finish the right side, we'll go back to the starting point and we go up to the left, 3. Up to the left, 3. Now that we have all our points, we're going to connect the dots. So let's get our ruler or our ID and connect the dots. And there we go. There's our line. Let's go on to the next problems. Remember, if I'm going too fast, you can always stop to write it down your problems, okay? All right, let's go on to the next problem. The next problem, we have the y alone, and the number with x is 3/2. And there's no number with x. So in other words, when that happens, you put a 0 because basically there's an invisible positive 0 there. All right, very good. So now that we have them, we're going to start with the y-intercept, which is at 0. And then the slope is positive 3, so it's going to go up 3 and then over 2. We'll put our pencil at the origin, and we're going to go up 3 and then over 2. Then again, up 3, over 2. And then once you completed the right side, you're going to go back, and you're going to go down 3, over 2. Down 3, over 2. Then once I completed all the points, I'm going to connect the dots. And there we go. There's our line. All right, very good. The next ones is the special cases where you have a letter just equal a plain number. Y equals -2. That's when the slope is 0. And the y-intercept is the number that you see right there. So whenever you see the y equals just a plain number, just go on the y-axis and look for the -2. And once you get there, you just have to draw a horizontal line. So these will be like the special cases, and they're pretty easy. You just have to remember, okay, if the y is alone, so just look for the number. Here's -2. You go down 2, and then you draw the line. If it's x -2, please remember it's no slope, and the y-intercept is not going to be applicable. So basically, when x equals -2, you're going to look for the number on the x-axis. So we're going to look for -2 right there, and once there, you draw a vertical line. Because remember, this is no slope, okay? And I need to make sure this is a straight line. Here we go. So please remember these two special cases. When you have a letter equals a number, if it's the y, look for the number on the y, and you're going to draw a horizontal line. If it's x equals a plain number, just go on the x-axis and look for that number and then draw a vertical line. So this completes our lesson. This shows you how to graph a line when the y is alone. Remember to identify your slope, your y-intercept, and then plot the points on the right and on the left, and then connect the points using your ID. I hope that this video was helpful. Thank you very much for your time. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.